claims made by the president, as you just read, are concerned.
First, condolences to you on the loss of your brother.
Well, yes, I appreciate that. It is in order. But, well, as we say, God gives and God takes. So we accept your sympathies. And it is our prayer that you will find a good place in the abode in the bosom of the good Lord.
Well, so the President Akufo-Addo has been speaking. He's of the opinion that doubts about whether or not Free Senior High School was going to affect the quality of the students we produce have been settled with the kind of results that we are seeing from their performances in their final exams. In fact, he makes some comparisons with 2016 and says that clearly the Free Senior High School graduates are doing better than the situation in 2016. Should this put all doubts to rest?
Certainly not. In fact, the president has either been misled by his Minister for Education, or he is simply being dishonest or fraudulent. And I say this for a number of reasons, and I would enumerate them. First of all, what the president failed to tell Ghanaians is that since 2020, our students have been writing a customized, or if you like, a localized or a Ghana-made version of WASSCE. Listeners will remember that in the wake of COVID, various countries who are members of the West African sub-region, who traditionally have had their students examined on the basis of questions and arrangements made for all the member states, decided that they would postpone the examinations to 2021. But our government decided that Ghanaian students who were due to write WASSCE in 2020 would go on to write WASSCE.
Radio Gold.
I am pretty sure you remember that the final year students who were all home because we had closed the schools down were invited back to school, and special arrangements were put in place for them to be able to prepare and write the exams that year. Now, what many do not know is that since 2020, our students have been writing this Ghana-made version of WASSCE, which is different from the WASSCE that their seniors or predecessors, 2015, 2016, wrote. So how do you compare the outcome of an internationally written exam to the outcome of a local variant of that exam? In many ways, what our students have been writing since 2020 can best be described as GHASSCE, not WASSCE.
GHASSCE?
So you got GHASSCE, yes.
Not WASSCE.
Not WASSCE. Because you simply cannot compare WASSCE to GHASSCE. It cannot work like that.
But it's organized by WAEC in Ghana.
That so does not mean that it is WASSCE. Because When we say WASSCE, as the name itself indicates, it is an exam organized and administered by the West African Examination Council across member countries, where the students take the same exam, respond to the same questions, and examiners mark those questions according to the marking scheme across the West African sub-region, not customized for Ghana. And that is very significant. So the president is comparing apples to oranges. If the president really wants us to make a comparison, then I will suggest that the government should let WAEC revert to having arrangements for our students to write WASSCE as their counterparts did with their colleagues in Nigeria, in Sierra Leone, in the Gambia. Then we can make a comparison. You see, the reason why this point is significant is because of the subtle influence that government has over the current arrangement. The subtle influence that government has over the current arrangement, because it is a local variant. So the conditions are totally different. That is point number one. Point number two. Notice that in the last few years, and particularly since the first batch of the free senior school program as implemented by Akufo-Addo'S and Builsa and the MPP, the levels of examination malpractices are astonishing. Don't take it from me. I'm sure you have seen reports every year issued by Africa Education Watch and another monitoring team led by a former headmaster and a former NAGAS president, Comrade Kwame Alovi. That is another factor. 3, the president talks about quality. Given what I've just narrated, it should come to no Ghanaian as a surprise that we are having our tertiary institutions publicly indicating how students are struggling to meet a minimum CGPA of 1.0. I am sure you have seen the statement that was issued by the University of Ghana. And call any lecturer, either in a traditional university, a technical university, a college of education, or a nursing training college. They will tell you that they have admitted students. They have students who had A1 in English, A1 in maths, A1 in integrated science, and yet these students are struggling to cope with tertiary level education. So the point I'm making is that, given the background that I have presented, it is clear that we have to look up to what is going on and the performance of the students at the tertiary level as a basis of measuring quality. Because for lack of a better way, the system has been highly compromised. So now we have parents who saw the result of the awards and were shocked to the marrow. I know of a parent who knows that his daughter was very deficient in maths, and yet when the results were published, the daughter got an A1 in maths, and the parent was shocked as to how his daughter could achieve such a grade. The reason WASSCE that was written. The reports are there. Questions were answered, and the answers were written on blackboards. We know of supervisors and invigilators who were busily assisting students to cheat. We even know of schools where headmasters and teachers were in on it. Read the Africa Education Watch report. I will send you a copy. And do you know why even the teachers themselves have now decided that if this is what is going to please the government, we will all do whatever it takes to make government happy? It's because this minister, and Akufo-Addo'S, has instituted a league table where headmasters and schools are applauded and rewarded based on the outcome of WASSCE. And when your school does not do well, you are asked to stand up at meetings with your peers, and the minister dresses you down. We know of instances where headmasters have even been threatened if they do not produce stellar grades. So when you do this, and you have the conditions that I have narrated, and you then go on to try and boast about quality, clearly, that quality is not demonstrated by the competence and capacity of the students after they get those grades. And that is why, as I speak, I know for a fact that tertiary institutions across this country are advocating for the introduction of entrance examinations, because they have lost faith in the current arrangement. They can no longer contend with students enrolling with stellar grades at that level of secondary education, only to come to the tertiary institutions to struggle to be able to cope with tertiary level education. Let me give you a specific example. And I challenge the minister, the president, to provide contrary evidence to what I am saying. If Akufo-Addo'S truly wants to demonstrate and wants to hear the truth, he should call a meeting with lecturers of tertiary institutions, and they will tell him the challenges that they face trying to train students with good grades who are struggling to even construct basic sentences in English. During the 2023 budget hearing, my committee, of which I am the deputy ranking member, had the opportunity of hearing from the Ministry of Education and all agencies under the ministry. The National Teaching Council, headed by Clement Apaak himself not long ago, a leader in the union movement as far as secondary education is concerned. And his presentation, and I have that document, I have it, it's in my my car in Accra. When I get back to Accra, I will make a copy available to you. Had made a request for the committee to approve 7 million Ghana cedis. And the 7 million Ghana cedis was designated for entrance examination. As you would expect, yours truly, out of curiosity, I sought further and better particulars from Dr. Akufo-Addo'S as to why the NTC would be asking for 7 million for entrance examination. And as God is my witness, and He is alive and well, there are other members of the committee, and I have the document. The response he gave was this: that they are receiving complaints from the lecturers at the colleges of education to the effect that many of the students who were enrolling to be trained to become teachers were deficient in terms of their quality. And therefore, the proposal to institute the entrance exam was to serve as a means of ensuring that the students who are eventually admitted would have the minimum competencies to be trained as teachers. During that same sitting, and as a result of how everyone became surprised with this proposal, committee members interrogated the issue further. Clement Apaak told the committee that, as a matter of fact, the proposal to institute the entrance exam had gone to cabinet. The cabinet presided over by President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo'S, where his Minister for Education is a member. So the committee then said, well, we sympathize with your position,
Ghana's gold,
but it will not be proper for us to approve these 7 million Ghana cedis when cabinet has not given approval to your request to institute an entrance examination. So the point I'm making is this: the president is fully aware that quality has suffered, because you can't tell me that the proposal that was sent by the registrar of the NTC to cabinet would not have come to the attention of the Minister for Education and the President. So as I speak to you, I know fully well that very soon we will be engaging various ministries and agencies on the 2024 budget. I would eagerly wait to see whether the proposal is brought back to the committee and whether we would now get information to the effect that cabinet has approved it. But I am telling you on authority that the president is either being fraudulent or is being intellectually dishonest, because quality has suffered and continues to suffer. I did not alter that document. I am not
Ghana's gold,
an appointee of Akufo-Addo'S government. That his own appointee brought a proposal to the effect that he wanted 7 million to institute an entrance exam. And I'm not surprised, because if you speak to lecturers in the universities, they would collaborate the point that I just made. So the president can continue to tickle himself and laugh and make claims that are not supported by evidence. He can continue to compare apples to oranges, but the truth will expose it.
So your suggestion is that the results he's talking about, because it's quite you're doing someone doing this 60.39% student recording A1 to C6 in English. Your 62.45% recording A1 to C6 in integrated science. You're saying all of this is contrived?
What I'm saying is that the grades, yes, but how those grades were achieved is the question. And that argument that we continue to make is supported by the complaints that are coming from the tertiary institutions. Because remember that secondary education is not an end in itself. It's part of a continuum. So ideally, if these grades are worth the salt, we shouldn't have lecturers complaining about students getting A1s in English, yet struggling to construct basic sentences in English. We shouldn't hear requests based on complaints from lecturers at colleges of education to the effect that students that enroll with good grades don't have the needed competencies to be trained as teachers. So the point I'm making is that the value of those grades are in question, because when the students transition to the next phase, they struggle to continue. Okay. And that is why when we speak about GHASSCE versus WASSCE, when we speak about the unprecedented levels of exam malpractices, when we speak about the challenges and the need to address them so that students can earn the grades based on merit, so that when they get to the colleges of education, the nursing training colleges, the technical universities, the traditional universities, they will be able to survive and thrive. As it is, the evidence on the ground does not support what we are being sold.
Doc, thank you very much for making time to speak to us.
You are welcome. And let me put this on record.
Okay.
That when I return to Accra, I would be speaking to my ranking member and to the mother party. It is time that we begin holding perhaps weekly or monthly programs on the educational sector, so that we can expose the ills, we can expose the fraud, we can expose the make-believe. And in fact, Senator, when the president says that he has invested in education more than any other regime, that in itself is in question. Because if that is the case, why is it that since the inception of the free senior school policy, government is yet to remit 1 pesewa to cover the cost of ICT and library fees? Why is it that government owes capitation grants now 8 terms? Why is it that government is failing to pay publishers and printers of textbooks? Why is it that we have had a new curriculum in place since 2018, and yet today as we speak, not a single school, a single public basic school in the Republic of Ghana has a full complement of textbooks based on the new curriculum? Why is it that our schools are dilapidated? Why are we experiencing acute furniture shortage? All these, as you can see, fly in the face of the claims that the president is making. Okay. Yes, the monies may have been allocated, but I can tell you that the monies have not gone into the educational sector. Because if those monies had all been expended in the sector, we would still not be speaking about these basic issues that ought to be addressed to allow for effective teaching and transparent learning.
Doc, thank you. Thank you as always. Dr. Clement Apaak is Deputy Ranking Member of the Education Committee in Parliament and Member of Parliament for Builsa South, joining us for a conversation on President Akufo